Pretty difficult to find a college campus besides like BYU, that's more conservative. However, among college campuses, we are wildly conservative.
I think Princeton is definitely more liberal, especially as someone who comes from the South where everyone and their mother is especially conservative.
Definitely more liberal. There's only a couple of conservative professors on campus.
I think the idea of progressivism is very big on this campus in terms of they're very vocal, and so if you don't necessarily have progressive views, you don't really share it.
I think from the people I've talked to, I think I found a good diverse group of people. I know some people that are conservatives, I know some that are liberal, but overall I would say it is pretty liberal because of a lot of the, not strikes, but a lot of protests I've seen outside.
I feel like the majority of our student body is relatively liberal and probably leans on politically liberal. But I feel like a lot of the structure of Princeton itself lends itself to being much more conservative in terms of things changing about Princeton and people being able to actually do something about things that they see.
Well, it depends on how you're defining liberal. I think we're still socially liberal, but compared to schools in general, our wealth demographic is completely different. So I think the way we talk about issues of class topics and maybe economic inequality might be slightly different.
Class divisions are going to be a lot more invisible, but also definitely there than in a way that maybe racial divisions or gender-based divisions have maybe this university has done more strides with those kind of things in the past 20-30 years something than it has with something like class.
I feel like it's the norm to be liberal on campus, but that there are a lot of people here who don't necessarily align their political views that way, and end up holding that to themselves, and it comes out in little short bursts every now and again, if you're lucky to catch it.
I think it's more conservative due to people's own personal beliefs, but they don't vocalize it as much as someone may think.
It's more liberal than conservative, but compared to the other Ivy Leagues, which all have a reputation for being very liberal, Princeton is the most conservative, relatively speaking.
But I also think there's a lot of people here that are just incredibly not political at all. That really only think about moral standpoints and don't really think about policy that much. So it's really hard to take a stance as liberal if you're not considering the entire picture.
At the same time, there are those people that do have their minds very made up. But I feel like a larger part of that are more liberal people than conservative people.
At least, I know this is bad to go off of, but based on what you see on Tiger Confessions and stuff, I know a lot of people who are conservative feel a lot more, I guess, not guilty, but they have to really hide that aspect of it just because our campus is so much more openly liberal.
I mean, obviously, if somebody is kind of saying something that's against human rights, then everyone's going to pounce on that immediately. Not that that is a liberal or conservative issue per se, but when you're looking at abortion or something like that.
Directly saying hey, I'm conservative, that's I don't think people really care as much here compared to other universities.
At Princeton, if you are a conservative-leaning person, it wouldn't be impossible for you to voice your views.
I think they would get some pushback, but I think it would be in a respectful manner.
There is a very fine line between and I'm gonna sound like a conservative here, but let me explain my point. Full-on censorship and trying to create an inclusive environment. I think it's important that people who do voice these negative opinions are admonished for them.
It's definitely a really tough question. Where is the line between hate speech and where is the line between speech that's hurtful to people?
Anything that makes someone feel they don't belong here. We're all here. We all have something that we can add to the community. Recently, again, I want to talk to people a lot. There have been discussions around affirmative action and how it's about who's deserving and who isn't, and it's at the end of the day, we're all here. So. Me personally, I just don't see what the point is of trying to invalidate someone's reason for being here if they're contributing positively to the campus.
Of all my friends here, I'd say I have one who's like relatively like outspokenly conservative in his own view. I'd say he's relatively like moderate conservative. I think we've had several like long discussions, even some fights, but I'd say a lot of that is just like people like ignore that. I think that's he and I have just talked about other things. And I think there's a pretty big culture of that kind of thing on campus where it's like there's not a huge like dialogue among different like groups in that sense.
But I generally think that we like coexist well. I think that's a fact. Like internet, we're just like more vocal and tend to appear more adversarial, whereas like in person, it tends to be more like we disagree, but it's not as aggressive.
I think the political climate on campus is very low key. I don't think a lot of people talk about politics unless they're specifically asked for it.
There's definitely just not as much like activism on campus, not much like energy around voting or energy around just like getting things done.
Well, I think part of the reason it doesn't engage is that it's very easy for people here to like kind of self-stratify, not just with political things, but just in social things when everyone is in their a cappella group or their dance group or their eating club or they're this or they're that.
Liberal.
100% liberal, yeah. Liberal.
Next question.
It's just one question. Do you want to explain?
I'm in my second day of Pole 220, so not yet, but next week I'd explain.